So a little while ago on this channel, I talked about a couple DCTLs from PixelTools that were built to emulate film. They had a halation tool, a grain tool, and they came out with film Emulsion, which lets you emulate like negative stocks and film prints together to create this overall photochemical process. And they've now built it into one OFX, basically a plugin for Resolve, a dedicated plugin that you can keep on one node without having a bunch of DCTLs all over the place. And it makes emulating film and that whole workflow so simple and really easy. So I'm just going to give you a rundown of what it is, what's involved, and a couple things I'd like to see added in the future, but a really exciting release. So let's get into it. So the order of operations in film emulsion is similar to how you would actually process film. So we're starting with the negative stock, and then we're going into the halation that appears when light hits the film. Then we're printing out to a selection of print stocks, and we're dealing with grain and certain photochemical processes like bleach bypass at the end, which is really the first time I've seen a plugin actually emulate the one-to-one process of developing film. Super cool. So before we get into anything, we get a bunch of standard adjustments up top, like your exposure and your balance and your temperature and tint. But then we move into the negative controls, and we get to control from a pretty decent selection of negative stocks. This is pretty much the same as their DCTL film emulsion they brought out a little while ago. A good selection of Fujifilm and Kodak stocks to choose from, plus a little intensity slider if you wanted to dial back. So if a negative's a bit too strong for your liking, you get some sort of control over that. Now, when we come down to halation, we get a bunch of really impressive tools that are emulating the entire halation process. So it's basically when light overexposes, it hits the film base and reflects back into the red sensitive layer, which creates that red-orange glow around bright highlights. Now, I did have to read that because I know so little about what actual working with film is like and how halation and grain and that is created inside of film. But it just means all these tools are really well thought out and just insanely accurate to how film is processed in real life. I was able to figure a few things out on my own, because when you hover over the titles of any sliders in the plugin, it comes out with a really well detailed description of what that slider is going to do. Then we come down to our print stocks, and we have 3 to choose from here, plus a little slider to control how matted our shadows are, basically our black point of the print. We also get a slider to control the intensity of this one as well, so it's very customizable in regards to how much of the negative stock and the print that you want. When it comes to grain, once again, we have an insane amount of control. We have the weight of the grain in the red, green, and blue channels. We have layer separation. We get to control how much of the grain shows up in the shadows versus the highlights. We also get to choose the film gauge and the film stock that the grain is modeled off as well. And we also have the option to bind the image to the grain as well. So that's emulating what's called MTF blur, which is adjusting the image's resolution so the grain feels like it's part of the image. We get a softer vibe, feels like it was actually shot on the film itself. And then at the end, we get our film processing. And the first option here is we get to choose between a bunch of presets, basically, that adjust all of these settings to match the way certain films were shot. Really great way to get really nice looking presets straight out of the box. And then we get a bunch of other options about processing film. Again, I'm not too familiar with a few of these, so having the option to hover over each tool and figure out what it does is really handy. Now, really, I'm in love with this plugin. I don't really have too many notes other than just a couple quality of life things. And that is just, I would love to see that preset at the very top of the plugin. I remember the first time I used it, I was adjusting sliders all over the place, getting a nice look. And then when I toggled through the presets, it just changed everything that I had done above it. So it'd be nice to create that preset kind of first, and then go through and alter things how you like. Also, similar to something like Resolve's Film Look Creator, it'd be nice to have like a clean slate option or a texture only or a color only mode that turns certain elements off. So if you wanted to start totally from scratch and turn each process on as you move through the plugin, that'd be super cool. As I said, these things aren't complaints, they're just quality of life things. I'm still in love with the whole plugin. We'll definitely be using it on a lot of future grades. There'll be some links down in the description, some affiliate stuff, so it just means I earn a small commission if you choose to buy this for yourself. But that's all I got for you today. Have a good one.